Robert Eggers' Nosferatu is an exquisitely disturbing nightmare that grips you from the shadows of hell and refuses to let go until it's ready. Let's break down Nosferatu.
What's up, movie friends? Welcome back to Raiders of the Lost Podcast, the ultimate film and TV podcast. And today we're breaking down one of the year's flat-out best films, and that is Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, which I think was just an absolute standout in horror, by far the best in the genre this year. And I gotta say, it's probably Eggers' best work as a director and filmmaker. He really built upon his style, upon his confidence as a filmmaker. I was really floored by the filmmaking as a whole. The cinematic achievement of everything was just, unbelievable to behold. And on top of that, you get performances from some of the best actors working today. This is a really fresh, exciting, new interpretation of the character, and I was absolutely floored by everything happening on screen.
I expected it to be great, and it lived up to those expectations. This is a movie and a story that Robert Eggers has been living with for decades now, since he was a teenager. He directed a stage play in high school of Nosferatu. He has been dying to make this movie. He tried to get it going in 2015. We did a Robert Eggers Director Spotlight a couple of weeks ago. We broke down how for the last several years the talks of it happening have been going up and down, and then there have been scheduling conflicts. Originally, Harry Styles and Anya Taylor-Joy were attached to star. Harry Styles would have played Tom Sutter. He would not have played the vampire, but he was attached to it for quite a bit, so wasn't Anya Taylor-Joy. However, Harry Styles eventually had to drop out of Nosferatu due to scheduling conflicts, especially being a pop star. But, that's the common issue that happens with people, scheduling conflicts. And then after them two dropped out, they had Lily Rose Depp step in to take the role. But also Anya Taylor-Joy had to film Mad Max Furiosa for quite a while, which took a long time to shoot. So, unfortunately, she wasn't able to play the lead role in this. But I think Lily Rose Depp did a fantastic job. And you can just see the passion oozing out of every single frame in this film. It's so atmospheric, so disturbing and creepy and eerie, and I just love everything about it. The visuals, the sound design. Bill Skarsgård brought it as we expected him to as the vampire himself, not to mention the classic Robert Eggers twist, really hammering into folklore as his main motif and inspiration behind creature designs, like he's always done.
Yeah, what was really exciting about this film, particularly, and we're gonna not spoil anything for several minutes of this episode, just for anyone who hasn't watched the movie yet. Give yourself time to watch it. So we're gonna just chat about it overall for a little bit, and then we'll break down heavy spoilers and deep analysis on the film. What you want from new adaptations of especially famous material is to bring something new to your project. This is not just the Nosferatu IP, this is the Dracula project. The Nosferatu is based off of Dracula, and so the Bram Stoker's Dracula story is essentially a story. This is just adapted from that, and so we've seen lots of iterations of this story. This is not new. There's been so many great directors and so many great actors who have been a part of previous adaptations of this material, and so when you're going to do something, there's no point in doing it unless you're trying something different. And I think Eggers really showcased that, and he brought, again, like James said, his really intense love for folklore, for Gothic imagery, and I would say just the ancient stories of people from generations ago. And especially, what I thought was really great was he brought in the lore and the history of the first reports of vampires, which were very different from the vampires we know today. They were people who were, say, a community was struck by bad luck or a drought, or people were dying from some kind of plague or virus without any way to explain what was happening. Some small communities would blame something like a vampire type of being, and often they would blame someone who died recently, and they would really exhume these corpses from graves and really stab them in the chest with an iron, behead them, burn their bodies. These were the earliest ever depictions and stories, rumors, and circulations of vampiric presence. And so he used that to great effect in this film to give us something different for the Nosferatu sequences, as well as the look, sound, and an overall aesthetic of Nosferatu was very different from anything that we've seen before. We're not going to spoil right away what Bill was doing and what the prosthetics team did, which I thought was brilliant, but I thought it was so fresh and exciting. And James, isn't it so nice when movies live up to the hype? It's pretty rare.
Absolutely.
This movie was one of my most anticipated for the year. I walked into this theater very, very excited, very high expectations. I think we all hold Eggers to a really high standard, especially 3 great films in. And so I expected something fantastic, and once the credits rolled, I was like, that might be the best thing he's done.
Yeah, so we actually saw this pretty early. We saw it on December 13th, really early screening, so thanks to IMAX for sending us there in Focus Features. Now, this movie just came out on Christmas Day, and while we're recording this, we don't have too much critical information. We know that in Rotten Tomatoes, it's a 94% critic score, but there hasn't been an audience score yet. There's no IMDb rating yet. Letterboxd, not a ton of reviews. It's at 3.9 right now. The budget for this movie, not really sure. Somewhere between, I'm guessing, $20 and $75 million. It's somewhere in that ballpark because it looks very big, and this was a big production. You know, when you look at a movie like The Northman, which you feel obviously is a grand film, like $80 million budget, $90 million budget. This film felt bigger in a lot of different ways artistically. I mean, they built over 60 sets for Nosferatu. They were talking about this at an awesome Q&A we got to experience with Robert Eggers, as well as Bill Skarsgård was there, Nicholas Hoult, Lily Rose Depp, and Willem Dafoe himself, the king, was there as well. We learned a bunch of cool information like how many sets were built, and this production was massive, and the aesthetic, again, is I think my favorite part of this movie. Filming in massive castles. This filmed all over the place. They filmed in Czech Republic in February 2023, taking place at the Barrandov Studios in Prague, as well as the crew is shooting on location at the 14th century Rosmetall Pod Castle in Rosmetall Pod.
They built incredible sets, and without spoiling anything, obviously this is all in the trailer. There's basically a city square that they built that looked fantastic. And you can tell that they used the soundstage to great effect, and they built what looked like they built an intersection and used it in different ways. Lots of interiors, whether they be domestic interiors, office interiors, as well as several other exteriors. And plus, the inner layers of Nosferatu's estate were phenomenal. I was really blown away by the practicality. Everything's there on screen. There's very little visual effects, and you can tell when there's visual effects, obviously, that city's not real when they do the wide shots, but it blended in really seamlessly with everything. And I really liked Eggers' approach to this constantly moving camera. And it's pretty new. He was doing it a bit in Northman, but man, it was really exciting to see what they were doing. They were building, and not with the sets, you can tell these were like 360 sets. They were doing quite a few oneers. They were very long takes, minute long, 3 minute long. Sequences where you would see generally 5 different camera setups, but they're just doing one camera slowly moving, and it's turning, and it's pivoting. And they said that as they moved this camera throughout scenes, they were basically taking a theatrical approach of pulling away false walls. So the wall's there on the shot, but when the camera enters the doorway, they pull that wall away so that the camera crane can move through it. I wasn't sure while we were filming it. I was like, how much of this is Steadicam? Because there's a lot of great oneers. They used an automated crane for pretty much the entire film.
No Steadicam at all.
No Steadicam. It's a gimbal crane, and I think it looked really fantastic. It added a lot of precision to his filmmaking that I'd never really seen before, and it gives you this eerie sense of this strange quality visually, and he's doing a lot of these really cool push-ins as well, like a very wide, fast push-in. And I was just really taken aback by what he was doing visually. He and his DP, apparently from what they said, planned out a lot of these shots way in advance, and they spent weeks rehearsing with the actors to get the blocking right. And they were also interacting with the actors. If an actor moved their head to turn, they would wait for that as a timing mark, and they would pan the camera to match that person turning their head. So there's a lot of great synchronized work with the blocking and camera work, and it seemed like the entire set was involved in getting every shot to work. And I was really blown away by the filmmaking. It looks like Eggers is not only trying to do new things, but push himself as a director.
Yeah, and we're a little over 10 minutes into this episode.
Let's go.
So how about, this is your warning. If you haven't seen Nosferatu, go check it out. Then come listen and watch our episode as soon as you're done so that you can experience our analysis and breakdown. And again, the aesthetic is so exceptional. And also, I like how Eggers took the story in a new way. Like you said, if you're going to retell a story, there's been a couple of really big movies based off this, several not so well-known movies based off Nosferatu and Dracula, obviously. Do something different. And he did that with his folklore approach to the design of Nosferatu, which is terrifying, disturbing, and he hit it so well for as long as he wanted to. It took a little while to get a really good, clear look at Nosferatu, and when you finally do, it is disturbing and really brilliant at the same time. You know, like his love for folklore, he went into the direction of what vampires were believed to be by these older cultures, and they were just dead corpses, old corpses that were basically walking amongst us. That's what it would look like, and that's what Nosferatu looks like. A big undead corpse of a Romanian lord with a mustache. And Robert Eggers was talking in the Q&A about it. He said, they asked about the mustache. He's like, well, I wanted to look like a dead Romanian lord, and it's Transylvanian lord. And he said it's impossible to find one that didn't have a mustache. So the mustache really adds to the culture and the authenticity of that area. But I love how the corpse is rotting, even though he's alive. There are maggots coming out of different sections of him, as well as all the scarring and unhealed wounds that are still there, and this feral quality to him, this very animalistic urge to suck blood like an animal or a monster versus the very romanticized sucking of blood that vampires have really gone into in that direction for storytelling these days, of making very romanticized and very sexual and intimate at times. When Nosferatu is sucking your blood in this movie, it is disgusting, it's disturbing, and also he doesn't go for your lung, he goes right for your heart. He's sucking blood straight from where your heart is beating, which is really interesting. The symbolism is really powerful there, but I just love the design. I was shocked by it. I was not expecting it to be like that, and I like how different it was from every other interpretation of the pale-skinned vampire of Nosferatu with the pointy ears, the pointy nose, the couple of fangs. You know, the most popular versions of him, that's what he looks like. And even you can say Salem's Lot was inspired by the past looks of Nosferatu, but they did something completely new. I was not expecting to see a vampire with a mustache. It freaking works for me, though.
Absolutely, and you can see he definitely drew inspiration from early depictions in ancient paintings of, not ancient paintings, but old paintings of vampires, of these, you know, parasitic beings, hairless and monstrous looking, and we never really got that. I mean, Nosferatu in other movies, is monstrous and hairless, but not like in the disturbing nature. It's like this Nosferatu feels like a demon amongst us, like those ancient paintings of heaven and hell and what demonic beings look like. They are very disturbing looking and gross looking, and I thought it was really fantastic. And he had these huge open pores that would bleed and stuff, and it was just remarkable design. And him sucking blood is, like you said, it's not cool, it's not romantic, it's disturbing and it's gross. And the sound design of him, he's not just drinking blood, he is gulping it down. You hear him swallowing these huge washes of blood, and it's just absolutely disturbing. I really loved, like you said, how he really pulled the tension and waited until the very final moment where the audience couldn't take it anymore, where we finally got to see him. Because we see Hutter gets there, he's terrified. Nicholas Hoult did such a great job playing terrified in this movie. And as a camera work and an audience member, we're seeing him silhouetted, we're seeing hands, these long claws, but oftentimes he's just out of the depth of field, and we can't make out what his face looks like. And they did a terrific job blocking these sequences, and fantastic insert shots of him interacting with the contracts and reading through the paperwork. And I just really love the camera work. And then we finally got the reveal, and it just did not disappoint. And on top of that, I think Bill Skarsgård did something really great. His performance is really fascinating and something very different. He did an incredible job with his voice and his vocal range. He dropped down way down in the deepness of his lower voice, and he had this really deep, gravelly baritone. But on top of that, he had a really cool rhythm in pitch and speed to his dialogue. He was very slow with his speaking, and his rhythm kind of felt it puts you off kilter. The rhythm of his speaking, and he didn't speak like a normal human being. And I really liked how slow every word came out, because it really felt like this guy was undead. And on top of that, we get this really noticeable strained breathing. Every inhale and every exhale seems to be painful for him. He's an ancient being, and he's undead, but he's still breathing. I really love the breath work, and you hear these raspy sighs constantly, and it's just like so off-putting. And again, a big change he made, not just the appearance-wise, but in terms of the Mina character, who's Helen in this adaptation in Nosferatu. Ellen is he's not struck by the sight of her; he's struck by the scent of her, and also they have been communicating for many years. And so Ellen, her story is beefed up. The Mina story is beefed up as someone who has, for her entire life, kind of been a lightning rod for this mystic quality. And so I really liked how he added all this to it, because that character is it's a significant part of the script, but she really is like not that involved in the story. So I liked how the connection between Nosferatu and Ellen was actually so extensive that they have been communicating since she was a little girl, seeking out someone who could communicate with her on this different plane, you could say. So those are just some of the great additions to the Nosferatu. I got to ask you, James, my heartbeat was racing in the Nosferatu early scenes. Was your heart rate jacked? Were you feeling like on edge in the adrenaline?
Absolutely,
with her going through it.
My skin was tingling. My skin was tingling. My hairs were standing up. I was breathing heavier, and I was just dying. I was scared, but also I was just dying to get a glimpse of the monster. It was really fascinating the way that Eggers held it for as long as he did. And then, when he wants to show you Nosferatu later in the film, you get really good looks at him.
Oh, yeah.
And that opening scene the first scene with Hutter in Nosferatu at night with the fire inside the castle, really terrific filmmaking, which we'll get into a bit. But I want to go backwards. I want to go back to talking about Skarsgård, back to his breathing, because what's so impressive about his breaths, as disturbing, as impressive as they are, there's no aiding with visual effects and post-production for his voice. That's how absurdly talented this guy is. And it's a shock to me that he's being overlooked for awards contention, because his performance might be the most impressive of the year, to actually literally transform like this, to be unaided in post-production effects with this insane low voice, this guttural voice, this intense breathing that sounds like he's just breathing in glass. It just feels like it's just wounding his lungs as it goes in. And then another really impressive thing about the physicality of the performances in this movie, Lily Rose Depp, we'll talk more in detail about her role. She has a very physical performance in this, tons of crying, and just an insane range comparative to Toni Collette in Hereditary, but also these intense scenes of convulsions, which were also unaided in post, unaided with visual effects, unaided with wire work. Just incredibly impressive physical performances by both Lily Rose Depp and Bill Skarsgård in this film.
I had high expectations for Skarsgård, and he didn't disappoint. Lily Rose Depp, honestly, was the biggest standout in this film for me, because all I had seen her in was The King, in terms of acting, and the Kevin Smith movie. I can't remember the name of it. Otherwise, I didn't really. I knew she was great in The King. I never saw The Idol, but she's got to be good if Eggers hired her. So this is my real big taste for her abilities and her talents as an actress. And I gotta say, out of the entire cast, she honestly impressed me the most. She is absolutely sensational as Ellen. Her physicality, her accent, her emotive range, it was really staggering. And I think she's going to have a massive career going forward. But I had no idea she had this level of talent. Yes, she's a Nepo baby. Yes, she had an easier rise into Hollywood than anyone else. But you know what? She's got the stuff, and you can't deny that no matter who her parents are. She really can bring it. And I was absolutely floored. The physicality of her. She goes through really intense psychosis outbreaks, mental derangement, spasms. And there's this great shot, and it was some of the most disturbing facial imagery I've seen in years, where when she's being possessed by Nosferatu, she rolled her eyes in the back of her head and then jammed her tongue outside her mouth and just shoved it against the right side of her mouth. And there's no visual effects, there's no makeup work at all done on her. But that was she created a facial image that was really so disturbing. And I was just so impressed. I was just like, that was phenomenal, without the assistance of any kind of makeup or prosthetic work. It reminded me of like Exorcist level disturbing nature of a person's face. So I think she deserves all the praise in the world. I think she should be nominated for every fucking award that there is but she's not going to. And also, Bill Skarsgård, you're never going to get nominated for playing a movie monster. It's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen.
Well, I mean, Hannibal Lecter's a movie monster.
No, he's an actual monster in this, though.
I know, I'm kidding.
So he'll never get the awards recognition, but the two of them were absolutely dynamite and really made this movie fucking soar.
Let's round out the rest of the cast. Of course, Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok. He's a mysterious nobleman from Transylvania. He lives alone in a ruined castle hidden among the rugged peaks of the Carpathians. Nicholas Hoult plays Thomas Hutter, a pure, kind, loving, and sincere man who feels the need to take care of his wife, Ellen, whom he loves and respects deeply. He works as a real estate agent and lives in the Germany city of Wisborg. Lily Rose Depp plays Ellen Hutter, a German woman recently married to Thomas, my Thomas, described as a pure woman and an angelic wife who, in her lonely youth, we'll talk about this later on, sought a guardian angel, a spirit comfort, anything. This wish opens the door through a psychic connection to an evil spirit that becomes obsessed with her. And throughout the course of the film, we learn that Lily Rose Depp's character, Ellen Hutter, is a bit more than human. She has a psychic quality, which is how Orlok was able to seek her out in her youth. Aaron Taylor Johnson plays Friedrich Harding, Anna's husband and a vampire skeptic. Emma Corrin is Anna Harding, Friedrich's wife and Ellen's confidant and best friend. In the film, Ellen and Thomas are staying with Friedrich and Anna. Willem Dafoe plays Professor Albin Eberhard von Franz, a controversial scientist, expert in the occult and mysticism. He is the only character who truly understands the strange psychic connection between Count Orlok and Ellen. Ralph Ineson is Dr. Wilhelm Sievers, a doctor that tries to treat Ellen with normal medicine. And then we have a great performance from Simon McBurney, who plays Knock.
Yeah.
Who at first is, we learn is Thomas's employer, but we soon find out that he is a follower and obsessed with Count Orlok.
He's the Renfield character, ironically now employing Nicholas Hoult, who played Renfield.
And then fantastic cinematography from Jaron Blaschke, who is Eggers' normal collaborator. Plus production, we have Chris Columbus, the great filmmaker behind some of your favorite movies, was a producer on this film. So wasn't his daughter, Eleanor Columbus. They produced alongside each other to help get this made, and as well as on set producing. Now, the music was also done by frequent collaborators now of The Northman, Robin Carolan. He made his scoring debut with The Northman in 2022.
Wow.
And on Nosferatu, he intentionally moved away from the typical horror score, focusing on capturing the story's melancholic and tragic elements. And according to the music label behind this, which is Backlot Music, the soundtrack will have a total of 43 pieces of music and is scheduled to be released on vinyl and 2 CDs from Bones Records and Waxwork Records.
Sign me up, man.
And Carolan himself describes the music as almost telepathic with meticulous attention to detail.
I gotta say, this is gonna be Robert Eggers' most digestible film, and in a way, most mainstream film, because of obviously the typical archetypes that we see in this film and a storyline that's pretty familiar to us. I think this, if people are new to Eggers, this is the one to start with, to get a sense for him, because I think it's the easiest one for a mainstream audience to connect to. That being said, I also think it's his most special and greatest production he's ever put together, because I love The Northman. It was such a step up and huge in scope. But Nosferatu was just, it's just one of my favorite looking films of the year. And the entire team did a wonderful job putting all this together. And the use of visual effects, the use of miniatures, I loved so much of this film. And usually I don't like changes to famous novels or novels that I really like that don't have to necessarily be famous. But he made some really interesting changes to the story that I thought was great. And he actually fast-forwarded like the first act of this film, where in the original Nosferatu and in the Bram Stoker Dracula story, Hutter, on his journey, he's welcomed by the wagon driver who gives him a ride, and he notices the wolves in the forest. And the journey to the actual castle is quite a bit of runtime, a good 5 to 10 minutes or so. And we get dialogue with the wagon driver, and basically Nosferatu's assistant. I'm not assistant, but there's a lot to it. However, in this film, I fucking loved Eggers. He created this really mystical power that Nosferatu possesses. This ability to move things, this ability to influence people, this ability to have people do things. And it added the eeriness to this, and it added some, in a way, new powers to the forces of evil, where there is no wagon driver. The horse wagon arrives without anyone there. The door opens for Hutter, and Hutter, in a trance, doesn't even know he's doing it. He steps inside, and before he knows it, he's at the front door. Before he knocks, the door opens. I thought it was just wonderful filmmaking and such a great way to do something different. We don't get the same dialogue we've seen so many times before, because there is a lot of obviously similar dialogue that in the other interpretations that we get in this film. So I loved the entire journey to Nosferatu's castle because it was so different, so unique. It had this really great silent film quality to it because no one spoke for a good 5 minutes. And I loved, like, the filmmakers have often given Nosferatu or Dracula, visual powers, whether it be, for instance, for Coppola with the shadows in Bram Stoker's Dracula. Dracula's standing there with the Sutter character, but his shadow is like approaching him and gripping for him. This is so cool in that movie. But in this film, what I really liked is that Nosferatu seems to, in a way, teleport. And every time Hutter thinks he knows where Nosferatu is, it's like, oh, he's over there. They're walking up the spiral staircase, and Nosferatu is just a few steps ahead of him. But then he makes one more circulation. And Nosferatu's not even there anymore. He's waiting for him in the next room, and then Hutter thinks he's across the table. But then in the next instant, Nosferatu's pouring him wine right next to him. Drink. There are so many cool elements to these powers that this force of evil possesses in this film that I thought was really cool to behold, and I was just like pleasantly surprised from moment to moment what Eggers had crafted.
It's really brilliant, and I love how you brought up miniatures because there probably aren't that many, but the most impressive has to be the entire town and fantastic shot of
the German town.
Yeah, the town. The fantastic shot, the city, the fantastic shot of Nosferatu's hand stretched out, reaching, and then obviously this is in the trailer. Then we see the shadow of his hand covering the entire city and all the homes and all the businesses with his hand. And the use of shadows in this movie was so unique and so fun. Opening scene.
Oh my God, it's great.
With these really powerful shadows. And I like the opening a lot. I think that was a really cool scene to start with, her like sort of a dream flashback. And it's so creative, but at the same time harkens back to the original Nosferatu, F.W. Murnau's Smaug. And his use of shadows in that film, the use of shadows in German Expressionism in the 1920s and 30s in silent film, and how important that was for creating dread and disturbing your audience. I love the approach of let's figure out really unique ways to use shadows in this movie, whether it's in the billowing curtains from the wind of Ellen in her dream, and then as he's approaching people's homes, the way he is able to get people to do what he wants, but we're seeing it visually done with the shadows, his hand creeping up a wall, and the door handle opens, but really what happened was he had Sutter or someone else open the door for him. So using shadows to control people, for us to visually see it, for audience members to see it, I think that's really clever and really smart. And it was so artistic. And it's so practical, too. And
it's very easy to do.
Wouldn't. Yeah. I feel like most people wouldn't play around with shadows like the way they did in this movie. And I think it was one of my favorite parts of the entire film is the use of shadows as a form of magic, I guess you could say, for Nosferatu, but also a point of physicality for actions to happen for the film to convey his trance control on people.
I love the twist.
Yeah.
The Hutter twist. It was great. We didn't just see a little bit of Nosferatu. We saw everything.
Saw a lot.
We got a lot of Nosferatu.
he skipped leg day. Nosferatu skips leg day. Found out.
That's where like he feels similar to like those old paintings. the being with the slim limbs and the monstrous body.
Yeah, I also just love his hounds by his side all the time.
Yeah, so that's a symbol of making a pact with the devil. The hounds are a consistent motif with demonology and stuff.
And then we have a really common story motif in folklore and in history, of death and the maiden. And we have that here. Mm-hmm. And Ellen Sutter's character is the maiden. Nosferatu is death. This young, pure innocence, oftentimes a virgin, but obviously not. She's married in this film. Who is tempted by death or sought after by death and sometimes corrupted by death. And I really like the focus of switching the main storyline to Ellen in this film to bring more emotionality. You can explore the psychology and the psychosis of what's happening in the characters a lot better, as well as the psychic connection between Ellen and Count Orlok, which I think was really clever. I like Bram Stoker's Dracula a lot. We have Dracula's sees the photo of her, and she looks just like his former lover. I like that version as well. But this one was so unique, and I think that it works better in a lot of different ways.
Because Nosferatu's been pulling the strings for everything.
Yeah,
to get to her
years.
Before Hunter even got there.
For years.
That's what I liked.
Count Orlok being a part of her life for years, since she was a little girl. And also we learned from the professor that she is more than human. There's some sort of psychic ability that she has. He tells her, if you didn't live in this modern world, you'd probably be a high priestess. However, you do seem to be an antenna for dark forces, a demon that lives among us.
And this is shown in the opening scene. So I thought the marketing for this movie was so great because we've seen the other Nosferatus, and obviously, spoilers. I mean, if you watch this movie, we already spoiled it. The Nosferatu story ends with Ellen sacrificing herself as a distraction to make sure that Nosferatu can't return to his sarcophagus in time for daylight, and then he dies in her bedroom. That's the way a story always ends, and that's how a story ends in this one. So I thought there's the great shot in the trailer of Ellen approaching the window, the billowing curtain. Nosferatu's shadows are appearing in the curtain, but we're not seeing him there physically. I thought that was going to be the end of the movie. And I was like, oh, cool. It's money. I was like, most audiences might not think that's going to be the end, but I was like, oh, that's probably the end, and it's a great shot, so I get why they're putting it in the trailer. But I walked in this movie thinking I knew how the ending was going to play out. And so that being the first scene of the movie, then I was like, let's go. I have no idea how he's going to do this. It's fantastic. And on top of that, it was a great oneer. Really fantastic camera work. And it set the stage for, there's going to be a lot of long takes in this movie. That's the oneer. The first scene with Ellen and Hutter is a great oneer where we enter the room on Ellen's left side, and then the camera goes behind her, like where the pillows of her bed are, circles around her, and then positions itself on the other side of her.
Started as a close-up, too.
Yeah, started as a close-up. There's a lot of, not even just wonders, but like great framing where we have, it's a 20-second take of we're framing for something in the distance, and then someone pops into frame, and we focus on them now. There's just a lot of great use of lens work in this movie that, someone like Spielberg likes to do. I got a hint of it felt like Fincher and Spielberg making a movie, this film, with the moving camera, with the long takes, and with the very precise kind of robotic camera work in a way, like the perfection of the camera work. The only real main difference is Spielberg is all about deep focus, and this film looks like it was shot mostly on a 50 mil and 35, but a lot on the 50 mil. But they made great use of it, and I really love the practical lighting. They used a ton of candle lights and a ton of accurate bulbs for this film, and the night sequences, the moonlight are phenomenal. I really love what they're doing, and James and I talked about this, how Eggers with his filmmaking and his coloring, he harkens back to silent film era cinematography and lighting, where they're shooting obviously in black and white celluloid because there is no color, and then they're dyeing the film strips, so the entire scene will play out with like this blue hue, or it will play out with a green hue or a pink hue. and so there's no color contrast, and you see that in a lot of the interiors with the warm candlelight, and then you see that a lot in the nighttime moonlit sequences where it's this super desaturated silvery blue, and it really does feel like it's the closest thing to the silent film era coloring that we've ever gotten in the modern era, and I think it's really brilliant in this film. It works. I gotta say, out of all of his films, it works best in this film because of what it is.
I want to learn more about the technical specs of this film, specifically the lenses and the filters used, because so much of the imagery, it feels unlike anything I've seen before. It feels like it's glowing. There's this constant haze in a lot of shots where we're indoors with fire, and the filters just make everything sort of blend together, and it loses everything loses its sharpness, which obviously smoke and haze do, but the way it blended in this movie in these shots, like when Hutter is at the gypsy's home, or the gypsy like brothel or hotel, and he walks in and it's just lit with campfire, with a fire and candles.
It's all bloom.
And it's just everything's blending together. You can't tell if it's a dream or it's not, and the sharpness is gone, the clarity is gone, and it's really stunning and beautiful. And they used whatever filters they used often in this movie, and a lot of scenes felt like that. Also, the scene with Hutter and Nosferatu, their first night together, when they're going over the contracts, the deed, while he's having Hutter drink and eat, and then has a drink of himself. Pun intended. Everything just sort of blends together in this beautiful imagery, and it feels like you're in a trance. It feels like you're being controlled by Nosferatu, and that might be what it looks like or feels like for those characters when they're in that moment.
And I think that part of that is aided by the lighting, where practical lighting. He's not afraid to shoot in the toe and shallow depth of field to soften everything out, especially behind the actors. And there's a phenomenal shot. My favorite shot of the movie is actually very early in the film, and it's during Ellen's second freak out with, and she's describing the nightmare she had to Hutter, right? And what they did with the camera is the camera barely moves, but it tells the story. So it starts with, Hutter's right next to Ellen, and they're stacked, and she's closer to the frame, but they're both in focus, and the camera's actually I would say a few feet away from them. And then as she's telling her story, the camera slowly pushes in, and then as it slowly pushes in, they maintain focus on Lily Rose Depp. And then what happens as she's telling the story, Nicholas Hoult is slowly going out of focus to the point where when the story's over, he is completely blurry, and she's the only thing in the frame that's in focus. And so they played so well. They played around with the shallow depth of field so brilliantly, where that's helping you tell a story of she's disappearing into that dream. He's no longer present, and she's enraptured by her memory, and she's overcome by it, and it's like she's not even in the room anymore. And so I think the use of the lenses and incredible use of shallow depths of field to do things like that, to hide Count Orlok in the opening sequences, it was just phenomenal work by the team all around. And, that focus puller, I hope he got a nice gift at the end of this movie, because he crushed it. They crushed it, whoever they were.
So I just looked up the lenses and filters used. I couldn't find the lenses, but I did discover that Robert Eggers had a glass manufacturing company assist him in making a filter for the lenses. The goal was to make it look like the image was shot black and white while allowing a few colors in. And so that's what it sounds like, letting blue in especially. Obviously, he's got that blue-orange color in his last few films, or in this and The Northman. So developing special, unique filters for his lenses to prevent specific light coming in, but maintaining that blue and orange.
That's sick.
Really fascinating.
That's awesome.
It has a great aesthetic. I love the look of his films. And like we were talking about in our spotlight of Eggers, that The Northman seems to be what his visuals are now in terms of the blues. It's like a sort of blue, black and white, a black and white blue with orange from fire, and practical lighting seems to be his go-to.
Now, I want to talk about Nicholas Hoult.
Well, how about we run to our intermission first, and then we'll talk about Nicholas Hoult.
Fine.
So before we continue, though, the best way to support Raiders of the Lost Podcasts, you all know, is to become a patron at patreon.com. Nosferatu would want you to become a patron of Raiders of the Lost Podcast.
Getting there, pretty close.
Yeah, I haven't even
Do the Romanian accent.
some other time. Now, to sign up for Patreon, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Then you can sign up for specific tiers, which give you specific perks depending on the tier you're in. For as little as $10 for an annual membership, you can become a member of our Patreon. You get access to weekly bonus episodes. You get access to the ad-free version of every single episode. Patreon helps us do the show full-time. It's the only reason we can do it. So thank you all so much, patrons, past, present, and future, for your support. Another great way to support the show. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple. Nosferatu would want you to. These ratings and reviews help us get seen by new people. They add reputability to the show. They give us some clout, you know. People be like, hey, look at this new podcast I've never seen. Oh, they got a couple thousand ratings. I think I'll give them a shot. I'll give them a shot.
Give us a shot.
Because, just get the shot. They got a couple thousand ratings. And I love to read the written reviews out. And I'll read one from Apple Podcasts in just a moment. Hopefully it's from Nosferatu. And also, another great way to support the show is just word of mouth. Sharing us with your family and friends is the best way for a podcast to grow organically. Word of mouth is key, tantamount, insanely important to our success. So thank you to everyone who has shared us with their family and friends.
This episode, of course, is sponsored by our great friends at movieposters.com, the number one place to get your posters online today. Be sure to use our promo code Raiders10 at movieposters.com, and that'll get you 10% off your order right now. The holiday season just ended, but that doesn't mean you don't have to get yourself a gift. I mean, you deserve it. Maybe you didn't get that gift you wanted.
I haven't got myself a gift yet.
Maybe you just got socks. Maybe you just got deodorant. So you know what? You should get yourself an amazing movie poster, and the best place to do that is at movieposters.com with our promo code Raiders10. That gets you 10% off your order right now. They have a huge selection of pretty much every movie and TV show imaginable in their poster library, as well as all sorts of sizes, framing, and even backlighting for your poster needs. These are high-quality prints, super, super, super sharp, fantastic coloring. They have everything from your favorite modern blockbuster to your favorite Hollywood classic. They have alternates, they have original prints, which are becoming hot collector's items, as well as lobby cards for any super fans of old cinema. For all of your poster needs, be sure to go to movieposters.com, and don't forget to use our promo code Raiders10 right now. That'll get you 10% off your order today.
All right, let's get into our first game of our intermission. We have framed.wtf, the website that presents you with movie stills, and you have to guess the movie. And the first movie still for this episode
Very gothic.
is a 4-way dirt intersection in a flatland somewhere. I have no freaking idea.
Jane Eyre.
Clearly a period piece.
Got it. Jane Eyre.
Well, that was fun.
Easy peasy.
Thanks, Anthony. There goes the game.
Sorry, man. I like period pieces.
I like period pieces. All right, let's get into our movie quote competition. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
This is 2 characters. All right, I'll give it a try. No, try not. Do or do not.
Is that Luke and Yoda?
There is no try.
That's Return of the Jedi. I mean, Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back. Sorry.
There you go.
Empire Strikes Back. All right, here's my intermission quote. As I pull it up for you, I got it right here. It's going to be a doozy.
We're all waiting for this
Waiting
one.
on bated breath. Okay. Jack, he was never the romantic type. For our anniversary, he gives me pepper spray. Pepper spray! I think it's perfume. I end up in the emergency room.
What is that? That's funny. I don't know.
Speed 2.
Oh, my dude.
She's talking about Keanu when they used to date.
Bro, I've only seen that movie once, I think, when it came out.
We watched it a couple times when we were kids. Definitely. We watched it all the time when we
Maybe
were younger.
once. Did you do that because Defoe's in it?
Yeah, I did.
Anthony, guess this.
Willem Dafoe's in it?
Guess this movie release here. Raging Bull.
1980.
He's correct, everyone.
I'd be mad at myself if I got that wrong. Of all movies.
Marty would be mad too.
Yeah, he don't subscribe. No, he'd just be disappointed, which is just worse. What year did Speed come out?
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, what year did it come out? 1994.
Yeah, you got it, baby.
Let's go.
Nice job.
Let's go.
That's a hell of a guess.
Thank you. Anthony, I have a pop quiz question for you.
Yes.
It has to do with Pulp Fiction. So, this movie obviously is told in chapters. How many chapters are there? And what are they called? Or just at least guess how many chapters there are.
Fuck. All right, I'm going to go. Hold on, let me guess how many there are first. 1, 2, 3. Hold on. 4. And then, that's 1, 2. But wait, are these different okay, gotcha. Okay, hold on. 1. Honey Bunny is 1. I don't know the chapter names. The Honey Bunny, is that a chapter name?
The Diner.
The Diner, and then Jules and Vincent, and then Mia Wallace and Vincent, and then Butch. I think we're gonna go 5.
So, well, 5, it's pretty spot on. So, there are 3 chapters, and then there's a prologue and an epilogue. So this is the order of the film. We have the prologue, which is the diner.
Yes.
And then we have Vincent Vega and Marcellus Wallace's wife, which is the first chapter. That's all Jules and Vincent, and also Mia and Vincent. Then we have the Gold Watch, which is all Butch. And then the Bonnie situation, after they shoot Marvin in the face.
Oh, shit, I shot Marvin in the face.
And then we have the epilogue, which is back to the diner.
Good. I thought there were 5.
Yeah, so you got like 5 main sections.
Yeah. All right. I couldn't remember the fucking names of them.
The Butch one.
The Butch one.
It's funny. It's a movie you've seen 30 times.
But the titles of them was just like, what? I can't remember that.
See, isn't that a fun question?
That's a great question. Better than some fucking random director of a random movie.
You exhaled, another list.
No, I exhaled because I was like, oh, fuck, I don't know this.
I thought it was like, here he goes with another list.
No, if you did another random director of some movie that we've seen once when we were 2 years old, I would have just been like...
When have I ever done that?
Several times.
What, you remember watching movies when you were 2? What movies do you remember
I remember
seeing?
being in the womb when I was 2.
But you were in the womb when you were 2?
Yeah, you know how it is. All right. Willem Dafoe actually portrayed Nosferatu. In what film?
I know he plays an actor that's playing Nosferatu, right?
Nope, incorrect. He plays Nosferatu in the flesh.
But it's a comedy.
It's a comedy movie, but he's not playing an actor. He's playing Nosferatu.
What's it called? It's not Nosferatu. It's like the word thing is in it.
The word thing is not in it.
The word some is in it.
The word some is not in it.
I can't remember.
Shadow of the Vampire. So, it's a what do you call it? It's like a mocking film, a spoof film, kind of
Mockumentary.
Not a mockumentary, but like in that same kind of tone. So the movie's about the production of Nosferatu, the original film by Murnau. So John Malkovich plays F.W. Murnau, and Willem Dafoe plays Nosferatu, who's a real vampire that they hired for the film. And he keeps like killing cast members and sucking their blood and stuff.
So I was right. He's
not an actor though.
He's
Nosferatu.
He's playing Nosferatu.
Yes. You're kind of right. I guess he's kind of an actor, yeah. But he's like, I'll cast a real vampire for the role.
It's pretty funny. Yeah, I've never seen it. I know it exists though.
You know things.
You know what I know is I'm ready to hear some unsubscribes from you, man.
I got some good ones. All right, first up.
If Nosferatu unsubscribed, I'd be like, unsubscribe.
Isaiah said on Tropic Thunder, I haven't had one issue with you guys until you said Lions and Chiefs Super Bowl. It'll be Eagles and Chiefs Super Bowl. Unsubscribe. Wink. Still love you guys, of course, though.
Fly, eagles, fly to the.
All right, Liz said in our Letterboxd episode, I think I lost brain cells over Anthony not knowing what a power brick is. Oh my God, unsubscribe.
Which episode is that in?
Letterboxd, our last one. I'm questionable with technology. I am. I'm kind of a boomer, honestly. Kind of a boomer. Very much.
I handle all the tech on the show, like all the in-person tech.
I'm always like, huh? All right, next up we got Adam. Adam Kramer on Letterboxd, my review of Nosferatu. He wrote, it's spelled Eggers, Eggers. Unsubscribed. I wrote Eggars.
Eggars?
Eggars. Egars. Egars. That's it for our unsubscribes. Thank you to everybody for sending those in. They always crack a smile and make us giggle.
We have a great 5-star written review from Nico Sophie, #1 podcast. I've been listening to every episode these guys make since 2021.
Wow.
And have no plan on stopping.
Never can't stop, won't stop.
Don't know why it took this long to write a review, but hey, here you are, pal. Even at thousands of listeners, they always respond to DMs and comments, and it's always a treat when I get shouted out in the intermission or Letterboxd recaps, even though I'm still convinced Anthony and James is just one guy talking to himself like Tyler Durden. This podcast is the bomb. I even became a patron, even though I'm broke, so these guys are legit. Oh, Nico!
Thanks, man.
Wow, you became a patron? Thank you so much. Man,
that's sweet.
Really appreciate it, pal.
Long-time listener. That's great.
His name was Robert Paulson.
His name was Nico Paulson.
His name was Nico Sophie. Nico, thank you so much. Anyone who reads or writes a written review on Apple Podcast, it will get read out loud on the show. So, Nico, we appreciate you so much, pal.
You're the man.
And, Anthony, what's your streaming recommendation?
Maria just got released on Netflix from Pablo Larraín, and it's supposed to be fantastic. So,
are you going to watch it?
I'm going to watch it, yeah. I got to rent it, though.
Ugh, Anthony's all about physical media these days.
I don't have any streaming anymore. I canceled all my subscriptions, so I got to rent things. But they might have a brand new copy.
Why don't you just go in person and see it in the theater?
Oh, yeah, it's playing in theaters.
Yeah. It's a movie. My streaming recommendation is a Spielberg film. Catch Me If You Can. It's on Prime.
I've heard of it.
Where are you going, Frank? Somewhere tropical? Tahiti?
I gotta ask you, it's a movie, reminded me.
Let's go back into Nosferatu.
I'm really glad. I mean, I think the casting worked out for this film. I think Anya Taylor-Joy obviously would have been fantastic because she's a wonderful actor. But yeah. I think Lily Rose Depp was so phenomenal, and I think it worked out with her in the role. I also am glad that Nicholas Hoult ended up getting the Thomas Hutter role because he was sensational as your lead in the way into the story. For the first hour of the film, he's involved heavily in nearly every scene. And he's such a reliable actor. He's so talented. He does a great accent in this movie, great characterization. He pulls fear so well. Like, I loved those early sequences with him entering Nosferatu's home in that den, going through the deed, and he's just got this manic look of frozen fear of like, oh my God, this is fucking crazy. He sold it so well. I'm sure Harry Styles could have done a good job, but I don't think he could have done what Nicholas Hoult did for sure because he's a really fantastic actor. And I thought he was perfect in the movie.
Yeah, Nicholas Hoult, we've been talking about him for years of just being such a talented guy and just being second to so many big roles. Batman, Superman. I'm sure he's been in talks for other huge characters we don't even know about. And it seems like he's having his moment finally to be this lead actor in these big movies. Not always the lead first billing role, but second billing's huge in movies like this, and he's phenomenal. And we obviously, as you all know, got to chat with him for Superman when they dropped the trailer. We got to have 60 seconds to interview him, ask him some questions. He's a delightful guy, really tall and handsome in person, as you'd expect. And then also seeing him at the Q&A, which is really cool.
3 times in a month.
Yeah,
Juror number 2, Nosferatu, and then Superman.
Oh yeah, how lucky are we? We've been seeing Nick everywhere.
We're best friends.
But he's phenomenal in Juror number 2, and he's fantastic in this movie, as we knew he would be. And I really am happy for him in his career because Lex Luthor is going to be such a huge role for him. And, hopefully he's still young. He's only like 35, 36 years old. And I think he's got the chops to be a huge movie star and really lead big films. And he was a perfect choice for Hutter in this film. And he brought this great vulnerability, this passion for his wife that I think was just so convincing. The love that he has for Ellen is really powerful in this film. He's got this great innocent quality. He wants what's best for his family. He is clouded by, possessions and a good life for his wife because that's what he's been surrounded by. Like his friend Friedrich, who Aaron Taylor Johnson's so good as. Thomas wants his wife to have everything she deserves because he knows how special she is, and he loves her so much. So he's such a sweet character who obviously meets the devil and survives and gets away. But he's so great. I mean, going on to Aaron Taylor Johnson, ATJ, good in this movie. The accents are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And the posh, preppy, douchebaggy accent that Aaron Taylor Johnson does in this movie is so goddamn fun, and he looks like he had a terrific time in this. He's got a great aesthetic. He's got a great look. Like all these characters, all these actors, they look great in different periods, and I think Aaron Taylor Johnson just stole every scene he was in. He was so funny sometimes, his pompous dickhead attitude, but also the nobility of his family and his bloodline runs deep through him, and he loves his family very much, and he's very wealthy, and it's someone who Thomas aspires to be like in terms of his position in life and what he can provide for his family. But Aaron Taylor Johnson is just so goddamn funny in this movie.
He's also gets put through the ringer.
Yeah.
I mean, he has the most tragic story in the entire film, I would argue. What he goes through with his wife and 2 children being murdered by a vampire. And the ensuing scenes of grief are really powerful. He's such a talented performer, and he really brought the emotion in those scenes in an exceptional way. And he's just really there's so many great leading actors in this movie, and it's an embarrassment of riches for a cast. And having Aaron Taylor Johnson in this pretty minor role in your film, like that, it's just like so great. It makes all the difference in the world. Emma Corrin's also fantastic, but then we gotta talk about the man,
Willem,
the legend, Willem Dafoe.
Finish it.
And Willem Dafoe plays Professor Alban Earhart von Franz, and he's essentially the Van Helsing character of the Dracula novel. So he's the professor who deals in the occult, deals in the mystique, who has been disassociated with by the entire medical industry, and no one takes him seriously. They think he's mentally deranged to believe in any of this superstitious hocus pocus stuff. But you can imagine the stuff he's seen, and he says a great line. He's like, I've seen things in this world that'll make you like crawl back into your mother's womb or something, and it's a great line. But von Franz is also really charming, and there's some really great comedy that comes out of Willem Dafoe's performance. I love when Innocent's character, what's his name, Severs, his old student, brings Aaron Taylor Johnson in, Harding in, and then Von Franz sees who it is. He's like, oh, my old student. And he gets up. He's been sitting in that armchair for a while, you could tell. He gets up, and when Severs hugs him, the dust from his jacket puffs up into the air. He's probably been sitting in that chair for like days.
It was a good laugh. The audience.
It was great. Yeah, everybody responded really well to it, and he brought this really good sense of lightness, of really easing the air of so much tension, and diffusing us from our increased heart rates to really give us a little moment to chuckle and to breathe, which you need in something like this. The pacing of the movie is great. Horror, drama, a little bit of comedy. Horror, drama, a little bit of comedy. And Willem Dafoe was a real delight on screen. He just works so well in Eggers' world with the kind of dialogue that he writes and the stories that he tells. And I mean, you can do anything to Willem Dafoe's hair and mustache and beard, and you can make him look like anything, and you believe it. You believe him as a old 1900s lighthouse keeper, and you believe him as a Van Helsing vampire killer, and you believe him as a Norwegian mystic fortune teller. It's just amazing.
And a Florida hotel manager and a superpower villain and a spider. I mean, you're gonna list off the guy's whole career.
I might as well. I might as well.
Just messing with you.
You're such a jerk.
But the plot's great, and everyone's phenomenal. You know, we have the classic plot of Thomas Sutter has been called to Transylvania to sell a house and give the deed to this new home in Germany in this film to Count Orlok, who wants to move. He's sick of the cold. He's sick of the mountains.
He wants to be closer to his bay.
He wants to be close to Ellen. And that's the main opening of the film and the main synopsis of him. His journey from getting from his place, which he needs a residence to travel to so that he can be safely transported there. And then it's him basically wreaking havoc and using the vampire folklore of a plague being brought to the city was so fascinating. You know, we all know the stories about the rats and how PETA is protesting this film. Now, over 2,000 rats were used in the production of Nosferatu. 200 of them were trained, but they used real rats, and it looked fucking awesome, and it was disturbing. It was creepy as hell, and they brought great quality to it. But I love the idea of this boat crashing into the shores of the city ports, the port of the city, and rats just infesting the city with plague, people dying of plague, but also that's all been brought there by this vampire who's after Ellen.
Yeah, and I like it because in the Nosferatu original, we get that great shot of him standing on top of the boat, but I like how they saved Nosferatu. They didn't show him too much, Count Orlok, and the next sight we see of him is of Knock pushing him up the canal to his new estate. And speaking of Knock, Simon McBurney was phenomenal in this role as the Renfield character, as the loyal servant to darkness, the indentured slave of Count Orlok and Nosferatu, willing to do anything for his master. In the book and in the movie, he hopes that his master will endow him with his own powers, but Nosferatu will never do something like that, and he just uses Knock as a pawn to do things for him. And Knock, a couple of great sequences by Simon McBurney in the hospital prison cell. And there's this great wonder where he bites the head off that pigeon. And it was really great. It was grotesque. It was disturbing. It made my stomach crawl. I think the whole audience reacted to that one. And it was just really, really fantastic because it's in a decently long dialogue scene. It's like a good 2.5 minute scene. And he did it near the end of it. And it was he was petting it. And you were like, oh, is he going to bite that thing's head off? Because he almost did at first. You're like, oh, no, he's going to spare it. But then he did. He bit that thing's head off, and then blood started oozing out of it and spraying out of it. And I was just like, oh, this is great. And I think I leaned forward after that scene. I was like in it.
And then it was like
pulsating.
It was pulsating out. It was good practical filmmaking because he didn't really bite the pigeon's head off. It was a real pigeon, which got swapped off camera, obviously. And then he really bit the head off the prosthetic and the fake pigeon. And I thought that was one of my favorite effects of the movie. It was so disturbing. The throat bite later on with him when he kills the guard, that was, I think, for me, the most disturbing
stretching
part of the film.
skin.
But also, Hutter by himself at Orlok's castle trying to escape. It was terrifying the first time we got such a great look at Orlok was when he's going mad. He knows his blood's being sucked out of him every day, and he's just being kept there until he dies. He's being fed off of, and there's that daytime sequence where he tries to escape, and then he finds the sarcophagus in the castle, and he pushes it open, and he grabs a axe to just kill Orlok, and Orlok wakes up, obviously, and comes after him, and it was so disturbing to see this really great look at Orlok, and then he's chased by the dogs inside the room until he falls off outside the cliff. But, I was terrified when Orlok was going after Sutter, who, with the shadows of his hand, has Sutter open the door for him to come in. And that great shot of him down the hallway with Orlok with his jacket on and the dogs at his feet, that's one of my favorite shots of the whole movie. But I love the chase sequence of him going after Sutter. And I like how Sutter escapes, just jumping from the window into the ocean. And then he's saved by these women who are part of a church nearby, and they revive him back to life basically through prayer and medicine. And Journeys Home too, but also the horse shots in this movie are great.
Yeah, the horse shots are great, and
That 180 camera spin.
camera pan, that was fantastic. It's actually reversed in the trailer.
Oh, is it?
They pan right to left in the trailer, but this was the real pan, left to right. So I was like, oh wait, I was like, oh, this is the wrong. It was like an opposite of the trailer shot, and obviously that's the big sequence in Dracula with his wives, and that's where the Hutter character, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, that's where he's being trapped there by the wives and gets away differently. But in this film, I like how he got away. I liked how the dogs chased him in the bedroom. I was like, oh fuck. Holy shit, those dogs are scary looking.
Big dogs.
Big dogs. It was a big dog.
big dog.
Big dog.
Should be fine against cats.
But again, this second half of the film is where Eggers did shake things up a lot, and there is a lot more storyline for Ellen. And we have this really great scene of Nosferatu Count Orlok coming to her in the evening, and they have this really significant exchange. And he tells her, I'll return in 3 nights. Because he can't physically be with her unless she voluntarily wants it and succumbs to the darkness. And so the contract that he tricked Hutter into signing, which he says was in his own native tongue, was a nulling of his marriage, and now he needs her to do the same thing essentially, vocally. And he says, if you don't succumb to me, I will bring nothing but death and bloodshed to those who you love. So they have this really great exchange, and this is not in the novel. This is all new because the beefed up Ellen role, I think, worked really well for a contemporary take on the story, giving her a larger part to play, giving her way more agency in the storyline rather than just being the victim. She's really taking grasp of the plot here, narratively. And then I really liked this whole thing of like 3 days, this countdown. Each day is worse, each night's worse, and she's seeing the effects and the deaths of those she loves.
The children, the killing of the children was
fucking
brutal.
Yeah,
holy fuck! When Anna walks into the bedroom after hearing their screams, and Nosferatu makes sure that the husband doesn't wake up, and then we go inside the room, and Nosferatu is just sucking the blood out of the necks of the kids and just tosses them aside like rag dolls.
Yeah.
That was disturbing.
That was messed up.
Holy crap. And then her being eaten and sucked dry from the rats was disturbing as well too, and then eventually dying. And obviously what happens to Friedrich was tragic as well, because he loses his entire family are dead, as well as his unborn child. And then the night they're supposed to go hunt Orlok at his new residence, his new swanky mansion, with the dilapidated walls, on the night they're supposed to go hunt him and kill him, Friedrich goes to the mausoleum at the funeral of his family, takes out the corpse of his wife, and looks like he was physical with her in death and died from plague while on top of her.
Yeah, he had the plague markings on his face of it was like some kind of welts and blistering. And
they find them there and burn him and his wife to free their souls, basically.
Yeah, and to stop the plague, too, from spreading. And the plague is, it's in the Nosferatu story, not in the Dracula story. I love the ship sequence. The ship sequence is where he's been feeding off of boatsmen every night during this passage from Germany to this new town. And, I mean, not to Germany, this new town. And then one of them, who knows how many men they've dropped into the sea because they're dead, and they think it's a plague, and then some of them think that the cargo is cursed, and one of them is like, I'm going to end this, I'm going to destroy this cargo. And he goes down into the hull of the ship, super dark, he's got a lantern, he's got a little axe, and he approaches the giant box that the sarcophagus is in, and it's still strapped with rope, and the wax seal of Nosferatu of Count Orlok is still there and sealed and looks like it's been untouched. And yet, as he's passing by, we see Nosferatu in between the pillars of wood, just lunges around. He makes a slight turn. He's been hiding there. And so he's able to, I don't know if he was ever in the sarcophagus at all. It might have just been there. Or he's able to strap it up again with his abilities. And then he absolutely destroys this dude, rips his throat apart, and blood everywhere, and you get that. He really feels like a monster in scenes like this, like a true monster.
And Ellen is the key to defeating Orlok. Her whole life, she's had this psychosis and this psychic connection to Orlok, who's been making her live every night in fear of her nightmares, which he haunts, is inside of her mind. And it wasn't until she met Thomas that she was able to have control of her own life and feel happiness and joy for once. But when Thomas left, then those nightmares came back, and throughout the course of Thomas's journey, she suffers worse and worse from the psychosis, from the convulsions, from the trance-like state she's put in every single night by Orlok's psychic power over her, until Thomas returns, and then that stops temporarily until they're both strong enough, and they get kicked out, obviously, by Friedrich. And then she knows, and she obviously has that conversation with the professor, that even though the men are going to go with torches and axes to go kill Orlok, she's the one that has to do it. And she understands this. And the third act is very powerful, as the men they're drawn to save Friedrich first, and then they're drawn to Orlok's home. They open up the coffin, slam down a giant nail, and it goes inside the body of Nock, which was surprising as fuck to me.
It was great.
And obviously the professor knew this the whole time. Thomas feels betrayed, and then he runs home. But Ellen, knowing that she's the only one that can stop this, she has to save basically everyone to prevent the plague from getting worse, and also to save her Thomas, has to accept the terms of the contract, and also cleverly lures Nosferatu to her home, to her bed, and keeps him there long enough until sunrise.
Contemporary times allow the story to work a little bit better in the ending, because in the original films, they don't have like full-on sex, and he's just in the room, and the light shines in from the sun. But in this, I think they're able to really push the envelope with storytelling and what we can see nowadays. There's a lot more freedom. And so we actually get to see Nosferatu, Count Orlok, having intimate relations with Ellen. And it's graphic, and she's literally embracing death. She's embracing death. She's embracing the darkness. And this is like the ultimate example of embracing death.
It's just like the image in the book from earlier in the film.
Yeah, exactly. And how to kill this demon. And there are multiple moments in this scene where he's realizing that daylight's coming, but he's so intoxicated by her. She's the only one who's ever been able to pull him, that it distracts him from the imminent death he's about to experience. He knows it's daylight. We hear the cock of the first crow. We know it's happening, and she keeps pulling him closer to her. And it was the only way to lead him to his death was by embracing him physically. It's graphic, it's gross, but it's also like, I thought it was like really fascinating imagery.
It's a rooster, by the way.
Rooster, thank you.
You're good. Yeah, and it's a powerful ending, and grotesque and disgusting.
He didn't disappear. He didn't dissolve. Yeah.
Just dies on top of her with his skinny legs. And we got a really funny anecdote about this ending sequence from Robert Eggers. The prosthetic version of Nosferatu that they made for the sequence of the death. It wasn't actually in this shot when he's dead on top of her. This monster was a fake, and they filled it with blood. So as you watch this sequence, the camera overhead, you can see blood is still trickling and leaking out of Nosferatu's eyes, out of his nose. And Eggers said they even had originally blood leaking out of his anus, but they said that it was a little too much, and on camera it was not working for them. So they actually, to quote Robert Eggers, had to put a cork in it. And so they literally corked the anus of the giant prosthetic they made of Nosferatu because there was just too much blood leaking out of his ass.
Probably looked a little comical.
Yeah.
Maybe not every orifice.
So they just stuck with the face and the ears and stuff like that.
And like the
pores.
The pores in his back. Yeah. Yeah. I think people would have been laughing.
Yeah,
if
so
they saw it.
they literally put a cork in it.
It looked great, though.
It did look great.
It looked really gross, but in a good way, man.
And what a powerful ending of Sutter walking in the bedroom with the professor as well behind him, discovering his wife as she's dying beneath the body and corpse of this ancient demon. And then the professor walks to the window. That great shot of the camera doesn't move, but then we see the professor's face in the mirror on the left-hand side looking into the sun. It is crazy, man. This was a jaw-dropping ending for me. But it was also very beautiful and poignant at the same time.
The final shot is the overhead. Yeah, the overhead of them on the bed.
Yeah.
Really, really great ending. I think it was a perfect way to frame it out. And poor Hutter. Poor Nicholas Hoult walking on that.
What a week.
What a doozy of a week, man. He's never going to recover from that.
But also, you look at what are the chances that her husband's a broker for real estate, and why? And that is obviously their connection. Like, what are the odds that he's the one that obviously has to be sent there working for as a broker? Providence. Providence is stated multiple times in this film, and so it's all fate. And I like that motif in this film, this theme of providence, of fatalism, of determinism. That's why this was all meant to work out. Like, this was all. It was probably inevitable to prevent them from being together, Orlok and Ellen. It was going to happen at some point, but it was up to Ellen whether or not he would die, or they would die together.
I think that Orlok would have found whatever way into her life was possible, because Nock says in the first act, I wasn't sure about giving you a promotion, but I'm giving you the promotion now. That's because Orlok's compromised him.
Mm-hmm.
And so, obviously, playing all the pieces himself from a distance. And so whatever job Hutter had, or whoever Ellen's husband would have been, Nosferatu would have manipulated them to get to him eventually somehow.
Yeah, but also Providence, bro.
Yeah,
Providence.
Yes, they do say it a lot in this film.
They say it quite a lot.
You're right.
Knox says it a lot in that scene. I think he says it 4 times.
Providence.
What a beautiful film.
It's great.
Exquisitely disturbing. Such a great
Deliciously
nightmare.
macabre.
Like I said, it grabs you from the shadows of hell and refuses to release you until it's ready.
Ready for what?
Until it's ready to let you go.
Okay.
So you can go home.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
You're ready.
You are ready. Until you're ready to go home.
See you later. Drive safe.
Oh, man, that's funny. That's funny as hell. I love this. I love the movie. I can't wait to see it again.
Wow. I know. I want to see it. I'm seeing it again on Christmas Day, which would have already passed. So, like I said, we recorded this on December 14th. We saw it on December 13th. I'm seeing it again on Christmas Day. I don't know what you're doing on Christmas Day, but probably not seeing this with me. You'll be in Vermont.
I have better things to do with my time on Christmas Day than to hang out with you. No, I'll be across the country.
Yes, you will be. But what a phenomenal film. One of our favorite filmmakers working today.
I'm not sure that it would be an appropriate movie to watch with Mom on Christmas Day.
Probably not.
Yeah, she might not like that.
Yeah, maybe not.
I should be like, I want to watch this really fun movie on Christmas.
And man, it looked good on IMAX.
Oh, fuck yeah.
It looked really great on massive IMAX screens. It wasn't shot in IMAX. I think it was a 1339... 1331? What was it? 1331 aspect ratio. Thank you. Which looked terrific.
Yeah, it looked great.
But it looked
shot on film.
Yeah, it's 35 mil,
35
baby.
mil, man.
35 mil. So, hope you enjoyed this episode on Nosferatu. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you all so much. Become patrons today at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. We hope you had a wonderful week celebrating the holidays for all you who do Christmas, and then the rest of y'all who, are getting ready and celebrating Hanukkah in these coming weeks and these weeks right now. We really appreciate you all tuning in. And all the other holidays, so we don't get canceled, we hope they're all going well.
Don't worry. If anyone's listening this long, they're never going to cancel us. They love us.
And that's it. Nail in the coffin. We're done. Take care, everyone.
See you next time.
This episode was brought to you by our chosen one patrons, Jacob Kossler and Nicholas Martin. Thanks so much, boys. Raiders of the Lost Podcast is a mirror image production. Sound mixing done by Jacob Kossler. Opening music by Chase Jackson.